There comes a time in every life when fear stands at the door, when uncertainty clouds the path ahead, and when doubt whispers that the future may not hold what we hope for. In those moments, it is faith that must rise, faith that trusts in a purpose greater than what we can see, faith that believes even when circumstances try to convince us otherwise. Life will not always make sense, and the world will not always align with our plans, but there is a power in surrendering to a plan far wiser than our own, a plan that moves beyond our understanding, yet always leads to what is best for us. Fear has a way of keeping us small, of convincing us to settle, to hold back, to hesitate when action is required. And yet faith has the power to break through that hesitation, to lift us above the doubts that try to chain our hearts, to show us that every closed door, every delay, every struggle is part of a greater design. When we choose belief over worry, when we trust the process even when it is unseen, we open ourselves to possibilities that fear would have us miss. And in that place of quiet trust, hope takes root, courage grows, and life begins to move in ways we could never have planned. There is a moment in everyone's life when fear shows up at the door, when uncertainty whispers in your ear, when doubt and worry begin to weigh on your mind. And in that moment, you face a choice between letting fear control your actions or stepping forward with faith, because fear has a way of making everything look bigger than it is, louder than it needs to be, and more threatening than it really is. And if you allow it to dominate, it will steal your confidence, cloud your vision, and keep you from moving toward the life you are meant to live. Fear can come in many forms: the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of the unknown, the fear that you are not enough. And all of it has the ability to paralyze you if you give it permission. But faith is the antidote. Faith is the decision to trust beyond what you see, to believe in something greater than your circumstances, to stand on the promise that even when the path is unclear, there is a plan, a purpose, and a way forward. Choosing faith does not mean you will not feel fear. It does not mean the doubts will vanish. It does not mean the storms will disappear. But it means you will not be controlled by them. It means you will take action in spite of them. It means you will keep moving forward even when your legs shake and your heart races. Because fear is loud, but faith speaks with a quiet authority that cannot be ignored when you learn to listen to it. Every time you choose faith over fear, you are building strength within yourself, a strength that grows each time you step into the unknown, each time you take a risk, each time you act without knowing the outcome. Because faith requires courage, and courage is developed through practice, through repeated acts of trust, through leaning on something greater than your own understanding, even when the world says it cannot be done. There will be times when fear seems overwhelming, when the challenges before you feel insurmountable, when every sign points to giving up. But that is precisely when faith matters most. That is when you must remind yourself that fear is not the truth, that fear is only a voice trying to protect you from growth, trying to keep you small, trying to keep you from what you are capable of achieving. And choosing faith in those moments is the act that defines your character, the act that separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. Faith requires patience. Faith requires discipline. Faith requires trust in the process, even when the results are not immediate, because life will test you, life will push against you, life will create situations that seem impossible to overcome, and if you only rely on what you can see or control, you will be defeated. But if you rely on faith, you find a strength that carries you through, a clarity that guides your decisions, and a resilience that refuses to give up. It is not always easy to choose faith, especially when fear is loud, when the mind races with what-ifs and the heart trembles with uncertainty. But each time you choose faith, you are rewiring the way you respond to life. You are training yourself to act from a place of trust rather than anxiety. And over time, that becomes a habit, a way of living, a pattern that strengthens your mind, your spirit, and your ability to navigate whatever comes your way. Faith also teaches perspective. It teaches you to see beyond the immediate fear, to look past the temporary obstacles, to understand that your struggles are shaping you, preparing you, refining you, and that every challenge carries a lesson, every setback contains an opportunity, Every delay is part of a larger plan, and when you embrace that, fear loses its grip. Because you understand that what is unseen is working in your favor, even when it does not feel like it. Choosing faith is not passive. It is not simply hoping things will work out. It is an active commitment to trust and move forward anyway. To take steps even when the next step is unclear. To make decisions even when the outcome is uncertain. Because the act of choosing faith creates momentum. It creates confidence. It creates a pattern of action that fear cannot stop. And that momentum builds until the life you have been working toward begins to reveal itself. There will be moments of doubt, moments when the fear feels stronger than your belief, moments when it seems easier to give in. But those are the moments that define the trajectory of your life. Those are the moments where you decide whether fear will control your story or whether faith will carry you to the next chapter. And each time you choose faith, you are creating a life that is resilient, purposeful, and aligned with something greater than yourself. So when fear tries to take control, remember that you have a choice, a power that is stronger than doubt, stronger than worry, stronger than hesitation, a power that comes from trusting beyond what you can see, acting even when you are uncertain, and believing that the path before you is leading to the right place. And the more you practice that choice, the more faith becomes your default. The more fear loses its hold, and the more you step into the life you were meant to live. Life has a way of testing us, of placing obstacles in our path, of presenting moments that feel overwhelming, unfair, or impossible. And in those moments that feel overwhelming, it is easy to lose sight of purpose, to question why things are happening the way they are, to wonder if there is meaning in the struggle. But trusting that every challenge is part of a greater plan changes everything, because when you see difficulty not as an enemy but as a teacher, not as a setback but as a stepping stone, you begin to approach life differently, with patience, with perspective, and with strength. Challenges have a way of revealing what is hidden inside of us. They expose our weaknesses, test our resilience, and demand that we rise above our comfort zones. And the moment we start to recognize that every challenge carries a lesson, a purpose, and an opportunity, we stop wasting energy on frustration and start focusing on growth, because life is not just about the easy victories. It is about how we respond when things are hard, how we adapt, how we endure, and how we continue moving forward when the weight of the moment tries to stop us. Trusting in a greater plan means understanding that not everything is meant to make sense immediately, that life's timing is often beyond our comprehension, that the pieces of our journey are being arranged in ways we cannot yet see. And when we accept that, we stop fighting against circumstances, we stop forcing outcomes, and we begin to flow with the process, even when it feels uncertain, even when it feels delayed. Because there is a rhythm to growth, a rhythm that requires patience, a rhythm that requires belief that the path you are walking is leading somewhere meaningful. Every challenge carries with it a hidden purpose, even the painful ones, even the confusing ones, even the ones that seem to derail our plans. Because in each moment of difficulty, you are being shaped, strengthened, and prepared for what comes next. And the more you trust that, the more you are able to find peace in the struggle. The more you can focus your energy on learning, adapting, and moving forward instead of dwelling on frustration, disappointment, or fear. Trust does not mean passivity. It does not mean giving up or accepting defeat. It means believing that your efforts, your choices, your endurance, and your courage are contributing to something larger than what you can see, something that is building toward a greater purpose. And that belief allows you to act with confidence, even in uncertainty, to make decisions with clarity even when the outcome is unclear, and to keep pushing forward when others might turn back. Life will test your faith in this way over and over again, and each time it does, it gives you the opportunity to practice trust, to practice patience, and to practice perseverance. Because challenges are not punishments. They are invitations to grow, to stretch beyond what you thought possible, and to discover strength you never knew you had. And when you face them with the mindset that they are part of a greater plan, the fear, the doubt, and the resistance begin to lose their power. Trusting the plan also means understanding that timing matters, that delays, Obstacles and detours are often part of the preparation you need to reach the next level. And when you begin to see setbacks not as failures but as necessary steps in the journey, you stop being discouraged by temporary struggles and start being motivated by the long-term vision, by the knowledge that every difficulty is equipping you for something bigger than what you imagined, something more meaningful than immediate success. Faith and trust in the greater plan allow you to maintain perspective, to rise above anxiety, and to act with integrity even when life feels uncertain, because you know that your effort is not wasted, your endurance is not meaningless, and your commitment to doing the right thing matters in ways that may not be visible yet, but will be revealed in time. And that knowledge gives courage, patience, and clarity even in the midst of challenges. When you begin to live with the belief that every challenge is part of a greater plan, you start to see patterns in life. You begin to understand that obstacles are shaping your character, refining your judgment, and preparing you for opportunities that you could not have imagined before. And that perspective changes how you respond to adversity, how you measure success, and how you define growth, because it is no longer just about what happens to you. It is about how you respond, how you endure, and how you allow life to use every experience to move you closer to your purpose. Challenges also teach humility, patience, and resilience, and when you trust that they are part of something greater, you stop resisting them. You stop wishing things were easier, and you start looking for the lessons, the insights, and the skills that can be gained. And that mindset transforms fear into courage, frustration into focus, and setbacks into stepping stones, allowing you to move forward with confidence and determination even when the path is unclear. So every time life places a challenge in your path, remember that it is not random, it is not meaningless, it is not a punishment, but a part of a larger story being written with you at the center. And when you trust that, you gain the strength to persevere, the patience to wait, and the courage to act, and you begin to understand that the struggles you face are not obstacles to your destiny. They are instruments shaping the life you were meant to live. And in that understanding, fear begins to fade. Hope takes root, and every challenge becomes a stepping stone toward the greater purpose that awaits. There is a moment in everyone's life when doubt creeps in, when the mind questions what is possible, when the heart wonders if dreams are too big, if goals are too far, if the future is too uncertain. And in those moments, the choice you make determines the trajectory of your life, because you can either let fear and skepticism dominate your decisions, or you can choose to believe in a vision far greater than the doubts, a vision that has been laid before you with purpose, with intention, and with the capacity to guide your steps even when the path is unclear. Doubt has a way of whispering lies, of convincing you that you are not enough, that you will fail, that your dreams are unrealistic. And if you listen too closely, it can paralyze you, keeping you small, keeping you cautious, and keeping you from fulfilling your potential. But a vision that is rooted in something greater, a vision that is designed by God, carries a weight and a direction that cannot be shaken. Temporary uncertainty, because it sees beyond the obstacles, beyond the challenges, beyond the temporary setbacks, to the destiny that is waiting. Letting that vision outweigh your doubts requires courage. It requires trust, and it requires discipline, because it is not enough to simply know that a purpose exists. You must actively choose to focus on it, to meditate on it, to align your actions and decisions with it, even when your mind is filled with questions and your circumstances seem to contradict it. And that alignment becomes the force that propels you forward when fear and hesitation threaten to hold you back. Every person faces moments when the future seems uncertain, when opportunities feel out of reach, when progress is slower than expected. And in those moments, it is easy to let doubt take control, to second-guess every choice, to worry about whether you are on the right path. But the more you allow the vision for your life to guide you, the more you develop clarity and confidence, the more you are able to take decisive action even in the midst of uncertainty. Because vision acts as a compass, pointing toward purpose and meaning, while doubts are just distractions that threaten to derail you from what is meant to unfold. Living by vision over doubt also requires patience, because the journey is rarely immediate, it is rarely easy, and it is rarely linear. And the more you practice trusting that the vision is unfolding in its proper time, the more resilient you become, the more you are able to stay focused, and the more your confidence grows not in what you see, but in what you know to be true in your heart. That the life you are meant to live is already mapped out, and the challenges you face are shaping you for what is to come. Every step you take in alignment with that vision is a step away from fear and skepticism and a step toward growth, purpose, and fulfillment. Because when your focus is on the larger plan, when your attention is on the calling rather than the obstacles, doubts lose their power, hesitation fades, and you begin to act with intention and determination, knowing that each decision, each effort, and each sacrifice is part of a greater story that is unfolding even when you cannot see the end. Doubt often thrives on impatience, on comparing your progress to others, on focusing on temporary setbacks. But vision encourages endurance, perspective, and faith, reminding you that your journey is unique, that your timing is precise, and that the path you are walking is designed for you alone. And when you allow that perspective to guide you, you are no longer swayed by fear, by criticism, or by the uncertainties that try to convince you that your dreams are impossible. Letting vision outweigh doubt also means committing to consistent action. It means showing up every day, putting in the work, making choices that align with your purpose, even when results are not immediately visible. Because faith in the vision is strengthened by discipline, and every effort you make builds momentum that eventually translates into tangible outcomes that affirm the truth of what you already believe. That the plan for your life is greater than any moment of uncertainty. There will be days when doubt feels heavy, when fear threatens to overtake you, when it seems easier to give up than to move forward. But those are the moments when choosing the vision over the doubt is most critical. When you remind yourself that the life you are walking toward is larger than the obstacles in front of you, larger than the mistakes of the past, larger than any temporary fear, because the vision is not a reflection of your limitations. It is a reflection of your potential, your purpose, and the greater plan that has already been set into motion. Living T. His way requires humility as well, because it means acknowledging that you are not in control of every detail, that not everything depends on your understanding or timing, that there is a plan far bigger than yourself at work. And when you accept that truth, you are freed from the burden of needing to figure everything out. And you are empowered to take the steps you can take, to make the choices in your control, and to trust that the rest will fall into place. So in every decision, in every challenge, in every moment of uncertainty, let the vision for your life outweigh your doubts. Let the belief in what is possible guide your actions. Let the knowledge that your life has purpose and direction give you strength to move forward. And as you continue to trust, act, and persevere, you will discover that the vision is not just a distant dream. It is a living reality being built in each choice, each effort, and each step you take. And in that trust, fear loses its grip. Confidence rises, and the life you were meant to live begins to unfold in ways more powerful than you ever imagined. Fear has a way of finding us when we least expect it, creeping in quietly or roaring in loud, trying to convince us that we are not ready, that we are not capable, that we are not enough. And if we let it, it can hold us back. It can steal our confidence. It can keep us from stepping into the life we were meant to live. But there is a power greater than fear, a force that rises from deep within, a belief so unshakable that it can carry you through the darkest moments and lift you above the doubts that try to chain you. Because rising above fear begins with a decision to trust, a decision to act, and a decision to refuse to let worry dictate your future. Unshakable belief is not something that happens overnight. It is built through repeated choices, through moments when you act despite your fear, through instances when you keep moving forward, even when the outcome is uncertain, because faith and belief are strengthened by action, by showing up when it is hard, by taking steps that others might avoid, and over time that belief becomes a shield, a foundation, a guiding force that allows you to rise above the noise of fear, criticism, and doubt. When fear presents itself, it will always exaggerate the risks. It will always amplify uncertainty. It will always try to paralyze your decision-making. But unshakable belief sees beyond the immediate. sees the possibilities, sees the potential within you, and in the circumstances, because belief is anchored not in what you can see with your eyes, but in what you know in your heart, that you are capable, that your purpose is greater than your obstacles, and that the life you are striving for is within reach if you refuse to give up. Rising above fear requires discipline, it requires preparation, and it requires a mindset that refuses to be defeated by circumstances, because life will continue to test you, life will continue to challenge you, life will continue to place situations before you that seem impossible to overcome. And the only way to move past them is to cultivate belief that is stronger than the resistance, that is firmer than the uncertainty, and that is rooted in the knowledge that every step you take is part of building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Belief is not blind. It is intentional, it is deliberate, and it is reinforced by experience and reflection. Because each time you confront fear and move forward despite it, you prove to yourself that you are capable, that you are resilient, that you have the strength to persevere, and that proof compounds over time, creating momentum that pushes you past hesitation, anxiety, and self-doubt, and into a life that fear cannot hold back. Fear often thrives on what-ifs and on imagining the worst-case scenarios, but unshakable belief thrives on purpose, on vision, and on understanding that challenges are opportunities for growth and refinement, that obstacles are temporary, and that setbacks are not the end but part of a larger journey. Because when you internalize that perspective, you stop reacting to fear with paralysis and start responding with courage, clarity, and determination. Rising above fear also requires a level of commitment that is consistent and unwavering. It is not a single act, but a way of living, a daily choice to believe in yourself and in your path, even when circumstances feel uncertain. And the more you practice that, the more belief becomes second nature. The more fear loses its grip, and the more you step confidently into opportunities that once felt intimidating, overwhelming, or out of reach. Belief allows you to see beyond temporary discomfort, beyond temporary setbacks, and beyond temporary failure, because it reminds you that what you are building, what you are pursuing, and what you are striving for is bigger than any single moment, any single mistake, any single obstacle. And that understanding gives courage, endurance, and focus that fear cannot penetrate. And that is what allows you to rise, to move, and to act even when the world around you seems uncertain. Each time you confront fear with belief, you build resilience. And resilience becomes the armor that carries you through more difficult challenges, because you start to realize that fear does not define you. Circumstances do not dictate your value. And temporary setbacks do not limit your potential. And in that realization, freedom emerges, the freedom to act boldly, the freedom to pursue your purpose, and the freedom to live without being controlled by worry, hesitation, or doubt. Rising above fear through unshakable belief transforms how you live. It transforms how you think. It transforms how you act, because you begin to operate from a place of certainty, from a place of power, from a place that is not swayed by temporary obstacles, but anchored in vision, purpose, and inner strength. And when that becomes your way of life, fear no longer controls you. Doubt no longer dictates your actions, and hesitation no longer limits your progress. So every time fear tries to take hold, every time uncertainty whispers in your ear, remember that belief is stronger. Remember that your purpose is greater. And remember that the only way to rise is to act, to trust, and to move forward with courage, confidence, and conviction. Because when you choose belief over fear, you step into a life that is not defined by what could go wrong, but by the strength, vision, and determination that carry you toward what can be achieved. Life often places us at crossroads where the path ahead is not clear, where uncertainty clouds our vision, where the next step feels like a gamble. And in those moments, it is easy to hesitate, to doubt, to question whether you have what it takes to move forward. But walking forward confidently, even when the path is unclear, is the mark of those who understand that progress is not always about certainty. It is about courage, commitment, and a refusal to be paralyzed by the unknown, because every step taken in faith and purpose and with clarity of intention brings you closer to the life you are meant to live. Confidence in uncertain times does not mean that fear disappears. It does not mean that the obstacles vanish. It does not mean that the future becomes completely visible. But it does mean that you choose to act despite fear, to make decisions even without perfect information, and to trust that your preparation, your judgment, and your commitment will carry you through the moments that feel unsaid. Written because hesitation only prolongs the struggle, and action, even imperfect action, is what produces momentum. Walking forward requires trusting yourself, trusting your instincts, and trusting the process. Because there will always be moments when the direction is unclear, when opportunities seem hidden, and when challenges feel overwhelming. And in those moments, confidence becomes the compass that guides you, reminding you that clarity often emerges through action rather than waiting, and that forward movement, no matter how tentative, is more powerful than remaining stuck in doubt. Life rewards those who act despite the unknown because every step taken builds experience, builds resilience, and builds understanding. And the more you walk forward, the more the path reveals itself, the more the obstacles shrink in proportion to your courage, and the more the possibilities expand before you, because uncertainty is not the absence of opportunity. It is the invitation to create your own way, to shape your own outcomes, and to develop the strength needed to navigate whatever comes your way. Confidence in walking forward also comes from preparation, from skill, from knowledge, and from discipline, because you cannot ignore the need to equip yourself for the journey, to refine your abilities, and to strengthen your character. And when you do, fear loses its power, hesitation fades, and you are able to make decisions with conviction, knowing that you have the tools, the mindset, and the resilience to handle whatever challenges arise, even when the path is not fully visible. There will be moments of doubt, moments when progress seems invisible, moments when it feels easier to wait for clarity before acting. And in those moments, it is critical to remember that waiting for perfect conditions often leads to stagnation, and that walking forward with confidence, even into the unknown, is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who remain on the sidelines, because action creates insight, and insight creates opportunity. Walking forward confidently also requires embracing risk, understanding that uncertainty is part of every meaningful journey, and that challenges are not obstacles to avoid but lessons to learn. And when you accept that, fear loses its grip, hesitation is replaced with determination. And every step you take becomes a testament to your resilience and your belief in your purpose, because life rarely hands you a perfectly clear road, but it rewards those who navigate the twists, the turns, and the unknown with focus and courage. Confidence is strengthened each time you move forward, despite fear, each time you take initiative, despite doubt, each time you act without knowing the outcome, because those moments build a foundation of self-trust, a belief in your capacity to handle uncertainty, and a mindset that refuses to be shaken by temporary setbacks. And over time, this confidence compounds, giving you the ability to navigate increasingly complex situations with poise and clarity, because walking forward becomes less about the fear of the unknown and more about the certainty of your resilience. To walk forward confidently, you also need vision, a sense of purpose that anchors your steps, a reason to keep moving when the road is foggy, and a belief that your efforts matter, that the journey itself is shaping you, and that each action, each decision, and each step contributes to your growth and your ultimate destination, because clarity often comes through persistence, and direction is revealed by momentum, not by standing still, even when the path is unclear. You can walk with confidence by remembering that obstacles are temporary, setbacks are not the end, and uncertainty is not a signal to stop, but a call to act, to trust yourself, and to keep moving, because every step forward, no matter how small, creates progress, builds momentum, and draws you closer to the outcomes you desire. And over time, the path that once seemed invisible begins to take shape, revealing opportunities, lessons, and victories that could not have been seen from where you started. So embrace the unknown, take action, despite fear, trust your preparation, and move with purpose, because confidence is not the absence of uncertainty, it is the courage to act in spite of it. And when you walk forward with that mindset, even the unclear path becomes a journey of growth, empowerment, and unstoppable progress, and every step you take demonstrates to yourself and the world that fear does not control you, hesitation does not define you, and your future is being shaped by your courage, your faith, and your unshakable commitment to keep moving forward. Every time you choose to move forward, even when the way ahead is uncertain, you are proving to yourself that courage is stronger than fear, that determination outweighs hesitation, and that your purpose matters more than the obstacles in front of you, because walking with confidence in the unknown is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting yourself, trusting your preparation, and trusting that the steps you take today are laying the foundation for the life you are building. When you embrace uncertainty instead of fearing it, you open yourself to opportunities you could not have imagined. You grow in ways that comfort could never produce, and you develop a resilience that carries you through challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. Because every action taken with faith, focus, and intention compounds over time, transforming hesitation into momentum and possibility into reality. The path will not always be smooth, and clarity will not always come quickly. But the more you commit to walking forward, the more the way unfolds, the more lessons reveal themselves, and the more your confidence strengthens, because each step is proof that you are capable, that you are resilient, and that your life is moving in the direction it was meant to go. So keep moving, keep believing, and keep stepping boldly, because even in uncertainty, your courage, consistency, and conviction are creating a life that is unstoppable, undeniable, and extraordinary.